Hi, welcome to Gene Rants. I'm Gene. And today, well, I haven't talked much lately about it's been a while about the Russia Ukraine war. So, a little bit of an update. And as usual, there's a reason why this is called Gene Rants. So, bit of a rant. And as has happened in the past regarding Russia Ukraine, it will be a rant regarding President Trump and his, in my view, misguided policy, well, generally pretty much of his foreign policy, but today we're talking about Russia and Ukraine. It has to do with Trump has this problem with victory. He doesn't believe in victory, and this will be an example today. Now, as I'm recording this, the day before you're seeing it, as has been happening for days and weeks and months, and as I predict, unless there's some kind of change of mind in this president, will continue to happen for days and weeks and months. Uh, well, it's a return, I guess, to the Henry Kissinger shuttle diplomacy. This time it's Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff. They're talking, meeting with Zelensky, of Ukraine, and then meeting with Putin, then Zelensky, then Putin, trying to because this is all Trump knows how to do, I guess. Well, it's the old saying, all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Trump, at the end of the day, he's a New York real estate developer. That's basically it. Makes deals, and that's basically pretty much all he knows. That's how he's oriented. So you have Witkoff and Jared, and Kushner going back and forth, and nothing changes because Vladimir Putin is not changing his position. He wants all of Ukraine. What he wants land that he hasn't managed to take in 4 years. He wants Zelensky to resign in favor of the government that preceded. I don't know if it preceded Zelensky. Might have also preceded Poroshenko, who was the president before Zelensky. I don't remember who the last puppet was, but the idea is that that Putin wants another puppet. He basically wants Ukraine, wants the end of Ukraine as an independent country. So that's where we are, that's where we've been, and that's where we will continue to be until Trump changes his mind. Now, what is he missing? This is what he is missing. What he's missing is that, well, first of all, one thing he's missing is he keeps saying that Putin he's appalled, by the number of people who have been killed. Well, on Russians, I mean, obviously not both sides, but for Putin to care. But but how many Russians? That 1 million Russians have been killed so far trying to conquer Ukraine. And Trump has this idea that Putin cares and wants to end the war. And that cannot be, I mean, in the one, Putin doesn't care, number one. He wants Ukraine. I mean, if he was worried about Russian deaths, he wouldn't have. Well, he maybe still would have invaded because he expected it all to be over in 3 days with minimal loss of life. But by now, if he cared about loss of life, it's not that. It's a grudge match for him. He has the goal. He wants all of Ukraine, and he doesn't want those 1 million deaths to be for nothing, because that's what the people who are dying Ukraine, the Ukrainians, they are dying for their independence. So they will have not died in vain if Zelensky wins, which I believe he can win. And Trump said the same thing. He did say briefly, he said, I see a chance that Ukraine can take it all. And then he's backed off of that. And I think it's because Putin will always talk as long as the fighting goes on. I mean, why not? See, as long as he can continue to fight. But what's being missed is that, I mean, this has been proven. This goes all the way back. Actually, it's Ulysses S. Grant's Civil War, who proved that. See, before then, wars, say Napoleon, or all the way back to the Romans and even before that, the Greeks, wars were won on the battlefield. One army would meet another, and and you just beat the crap out of each other, actually, because those days it was swords and shields and spears. But they would fight each other, and whoever won the battle won the war. But it was Grant and Sherman who realized that wars don't have to be won on the battlefield, that if you deprive your enemy of resources to fight, that they'll lose. You can win. And that's what they did. I mean, first of all, they would tear up the railroad, the railroad tracks in such a way. What they would do is they would take I described this in an earlier vlog. They would remove some of the rails, and then they would use the railroad ties, the wooden ties, to build a giant fire. And the rails in those days they were made out of iron, not steel, maybe steel, but it doesn't matter. I think it was iron though. And the point was they would put the rails over the fire of these burning rails, and it would soften the rails, and then a couple of guys on each side, and they would bend the rails around a tree. Sherman's neckties, they were called, so that the Confederates called them, and make them unusable. So that's the one thing. But they would also burn fields. They would deprive the Confederates of a food supply. If you can't feed an army, then you can't fight, and so on and so forth. And that was food in those days, and transportation. In these days for Russia, as John McCain said a long time ago, Russia is basically, it's a gas station masquerading as a country. They depend totally on sales of oil, and obviously, in this case, oil to petroleum to fuel their tanks and their other their ships and everything. They cannot, without oil, they cannot fight, and that's the situation that we're in right now, is that Ukraine realizes that and Trump doesn't. And what Ukraine has been doing, besides fighting on the battlefield, the Russians have been trying to do that too. They've been trying to destroy the energy infrastructure for Ukraine. The difference between Ukraine and Russia, though, is you deprive Ukraine of the ability to refine oil or whatever. There are plenty of countries, including ours, that will sell the oil to Ukraine, so Ukraine has outside sources of supply. Now, that doesn't work for Russia. If Russia can't power itself, not just the military, but the civilian, the cities light their home, heat their homes, so on and so forth, provide power. If they don't have the oil, nobody's going to sell it to them. Their only allies are China, North Korea, and Iran. Well, possibly Iran could sell oil, but it's possible to interdict it, and I don't know if how much oil Iran has, because we have the sanctions on Iran. So you see the dilemma they're in, and that's what the Ukrainians understand, and they have been using drones to attack oil refineries, and now they have been attacking ships. What I wanted to do right now, let me just give you a brief. This is from the Institute for the Study of War, and I get daily emails from them. Now, this is from last week. I was going to do this vlog last week, and something came up. So let me just give you some key takeaways of what the situation is as of the end of last week, which is pretty much what it is now. Pay special attention to the last two, numbers 3 and 4, but here we go. Here is the whole list. The Kremlin is setting conditions to reject the Ukrainian and European peace plan drafts after it previously rejected key points of the U.S. proposed 28-point peace plan that overwhelmingly benefited Russia. Ukrainian President number 2, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with U.S. negotiators in Berlin, Germany on December 14 to continue negotiations to end Russia's war in Ukraine. 3, Russian forces will likely continue to struggle to maintain the Kremlin's desired multi-pronged offensive operations in different operational directions due to the long-term materiel and manpower costs of such operations. 4. Ukraine's this is the important one, Ukraine's long-range strike campaign continues to degrade Russia's oil refining and military capabilities in Russia and occupied Ukraine. Pay attention to that. Military capabilities in Russia and occupied Ukraine. And let's just pop up to number one briefly. And number one, yeah, they had a plan that was very favorable. This 28, the original plan, 28 points favorable to Russia, and the Russians still rejected it. Why? Because it did not give them 100% of what they wanted. And Trump has since then changed the plan, reduced the number of points, but still the Russians will. Putin will continue to reject anything short of a total victory because he believes that he can wait out, because he knows two things. Well, the main thing he knows is that Trump, as I said, does not believe in victory. I'm going to show you now some videos. And well, let me give you one more little quote here, and it's got a little image under it. This is from X. A country with no navy has now hit 3 Russian narco-terrorist boats in 3 different seas in a 24-hour period. Ukraine has cards. And what do I mean by Ukraine has cards? You will remember maybe back in February, this famous or infamous meeting, Zelensky in the White House, and Trump was talking about Vance was there too. They basically tag teamed Zelensky. Talked about, Trump said that he was going to negotiate a solution with Putin, and it was Zelensky who said, what negotiations are you talking about? Because he had made an agreement with Russia a long time ago. Russia obviously broke the agreement, invaded Ukraine, and what he got was he got dressed down very severely by Trump and Zelensky. And one of the things that Trump said, well, you have no cards to play. So basically, you're helpless, you're losing, you have no cards to play, we're going to negotiate, just shut the hell up. Okay, that's what he said. 6 months, more than now, I mean, we're several months later since then. Now we're in December, like 8, 9 months later, and 10 months later, and we see that Zelensky was right. What negotiations? These negotiations, as I just said, they're going back and forth. Witkoff and Kushner going back and forth, back and forth. Nothing has changed. And Trump keeps saying, well, 7,500 people a week being killed. All right, so multiply that by the number of weeks since Zelensky told Trump that any negotiation was useless. And by the way, it was short aside here, because I said I have this big problem with Trump. Just poor foreign policy, most foreign policy. I mean, he's doing the right thing in Venezuela, okay? So it's not 100%. But Israel, the same thing with Zelensky, is that you have this real estate developer from Manhattan who will not listen to the president of Ukraine and the prime minister of Israel, who presumably know their countries better than a real estate developer from Manhattan. But this real estate developer from Manhattan happens to be the president of the United States and commander-in-chief with the say-so over provision of weapons that both of these countries need. So they have to be respectable, because that's the other thing. Trump gets mad if you're not respectful enough. And that's the other thing. Somebody, Witkoff, I think it was, advised under the table, behind the scenes, to one of Putin's, I forget which one it was, not Putin himself, but one of his fellow, one of the diplomats, say the way to deal with Trump is to compliment him, tell him he's a great guy, because he falls for that every time. Tell me he's a great guy, and he'll sit there and negotiate forever while 7,500 people are killed a week. Anyway, now on to the videos. I'm going to show you a couple of two videos. I'll cut right from one to the other. I won't come in of drone strikes, Ukrainian drone strikes on a couple of oil tankers. And by the way, let me just throw in this: these tankers were empty; they had no oil in them, so there was no danger of an oil spill. Just get that, you environmentalists out there.
This was the moment Ukrainian sea drones launched their attack on a pair of oil tankers in the Black Sea, tracking their targets through the icy waters before slamming into them and self-destructing in a ball of flame.
Drone attack! Drone attack! Please help!
This distress call shared with NBC News by a Turkish maritime tracking site. No crew members were harmed, Turkish authorities say. The drones are called Sea Babies, and they're the size of small speedboats. Ukraine says both tankers are part of Russia's so-called Shadow Fleet, merchant ships secretly used by the Kremlin to evade Western oil sanctions.
So now that was two videos. Now I want to show you a third one, because this one makes a very important point. Now this one is, and by the way, if you didn't notice in those videos, another thing that's changed is they're still using them, Ukraine using undersea drones, but they are also now using aerial drones to hit these ships. One of those tankers that you saw was an explosive, a grenade or something dropped from the air. But now on to this third video, which makes, this is where the Ukrainians hit a Russian submarine in port. But watch the video, and then I will make the big point that I want to make. So there you saw altogether two oil tankers, which hurts Russia, because if they had, never mind just the civilian population being short of energy, but there, as I've said in the past, you deprive the oil. That's why the Germans in World War II lost the Battle of the Bulge, because they had a short window of time to basically, what they wanted to do, that was the idea of the bulge, to create a bulge and separate the Allied armies, and in that way win the war. So what happened was that they ran out of fuel, And the same thing could happen to the Russians. You deprive them of the oil and these tanks and all the self-propelled artillery and all those things. They're just they're multi-ton paperweights is all they are without oil to run them. So the Ukrainians are doing the right thing, but the main point or the final point I want to make, that last video you saw, first of all, how that drone was able to maneuver among all those boats to those ships to hit that one submarine, which is a boat, by the way. Submarines are boats, and let's not get into the nomenclature. But the other vessels there, those are ships. But what if Ukraine had enough drones, just drones, which are not that expensive when you're talking about military materiel, enough drones to hit every ship in that harbor that you saw. How many ships there were? To hit all of them at once. Can you imagine the damage it would do? And all Trump needs to do is provide, you're not talking about boots on the ground. You're not talking, well, Tomahawk missiles would be brilliant because the Ukrainians, I showed you them hitting ships, but they have also been hitting oil refineries. And to get the ones that are way, 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 far away, you need Tomahawk missiles. We should give Ukraine that's the other point I guess people seem to forget, and Trump maybe forgot, that they Zelensky was pretty much, bullied into signing a mineral deal. So we need rare earths. Ukraine has them there. So it's not like we're giving them all this material. They're paying for it. They're going to get, when there's peace, no one's going to mine. I don't mean setting landmines. I mean mine for minerals in a war in a country that's under war. So but when there's peace, if we just win, if Trump would just let Ukraine help Ukraine win, then we could go in there and we could drill mine for these minerals. So they're not a gift. We're not giving this stuff to Ukraine. They eventually are going to pay for them, pay for everything. So that's a state of play right now, is that it's just incredibly frustrating to me that we don't provide with Ukraine with enough material to destroy a whole fleet of ships that are just sitting ducks in a harbor there that you just saw. That would be not only that, but it also this almost happened actually World War II. So Pearl Harbor, there was one particular battleship that was sailing through there. It got out of the opening, the entrance to Pearl Harbor just in time, because if it had been hit well and sunk in Pearl Harbor, then it would have been impossible for any ship to get in and out of Pearl Harbor until that sunken ship had been gotten out of there. So we just actually, if the Japanese, they launched 2 attacks, if they would have launched a third one, that would have been it. I mean, we've been lucky so many times, but that's another story. The main story is that those Trump just won't do it. He doesn't believe in winning, or what it is, or maybe he does, but it's like his plan B. You could be winning. Well, you look at the Israelis. They were just about to destroy Hamas, and then Hamas says, we want to talk. We want to make a deal. So, of course, Trump stops everything, stops the Israelis, because somebody wants to make a deal. And he wants to go down in history as a great deal maker who stops wars. I wish he were a president who would want to go down in history as a president who wins wars. But that's not Donald Trump. And unfortunately, I don't think it's J.D. Vance either. And I think J.D. Vance will actually be worse. I don't agree often with Rand Paul on a lot of things, but that's one thing that I agree with him. He doesn't like Vance either. I do not. It would be so much better if Marco Rubio were president. And it's what really disappoints me as he said, he won't run. He won't run for president if Vance doesn't. And of course, Vance will. We may get Marco Rubio as vice president. A Vance Rubio ticket would, I predict, do very well. That's number one. But number two, then I would assume Rubio would have Vance's ear and would talk some sense into him. But I don't know. He hasn't had much luck talking sense into Donald Trump. But that, I don't know. Okay, that's it. Enough ranting for today. Thanks for stopping by. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Your comments welcome in the comment section below the video. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I'd love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.